A man awoke from a coma after 2.5 months. Moments earlier, his friends had been by his side, but now they were nowhere to be seen. The flowers, which had just been brought in, had already wilted. The clock on the wall had stopped ticking. At this moment, the man realized something was wrong. He struggled to stand up from his bed, but his legs, weakened from prolonged immobility, failed him and he quickly fell to the floor. He called out for a nurse, but the only response was a deathly silence. After a brief rest, he finally managed to leave the room. However, the once bustling hospital was now in ruins, with bullet holes and bloodstains covering the walls, suggesting a fierce battle had taken place. Stumbling and staggering, he reached the end of the hallway, where a sign warned, "Do not open, zombies inside." Gathering his courage, he peered inside, only to see pale hands reaching out from within. This was Rick's first encounter with zombies, and his fear was palpable. Not daring to stay, he stumbled out of the hospital, only to be greeted by an even more despairing sight outside. Piles of bodies, wrapped in white sheets, were strewn across the streets, emitting a stench of death. Rick thought of his wife and child at home and hurried back, only to find the house empty. He called out their names, but there was no response. It felt like a nightmare to Rick, and he slapped his forehead repeatedly, hoping to wake up. However, the sharp pain reminded him that this was all too real. Rick wandered the streets, lost and disheartened, when a dark figure approached him. Before he could make out who it was, Rick was knocked unconscious by a shovel. As he lay there, a black man appeared in the distance. After dispatching the dark figure with a gunshot, he approached Rick, pointing the gun at him and demanding to know about his bandages. Before Rick could answer, he passed out again. When he regained consciousness, Rick found himself tightly bound on a bed. The black man, looking serious, asked if Rick had been bitten. Though bewildered, Rick honestly replied that he had only been shot in the chest by a criminal while on duty. The black man checked Rick's forehead and, seeing no signs of fever, relaxed and untied him. During dinner, the black man introduced himself as Morgan and the boy as his son, Dwayne. Morgan explained that 2 months ago, a zombie virus outbreak had occurred in the city. Anyone bitten by a zombie would turn into one of the bloodthirsty creatures. This was why he had been so tense upon seeing Rick's bandages. Learning that Rick was a police officer, Morgan held him in higher regard. Suddenly, an alarm went off outside, startling everyone inside. Morgan, with his experience, guessed that a zombie had likely triggered the car alarm, and he was right. A zombie had bumped into a blue car, setting off the alarm. Amidst the chaos, Dwayne spotted a familiar figure among the zombies and broke down, clutching a pillow. It turned out that the zombie was Dwayne's mother, and this was the reason Morgan had refused to leave. They wanted to stay close to her, even in her undead state. The next day, Morgan took Rick outside, teaching him how to deal with zombies. First, don't see them as people. Second, always aim for the head. Third, use melee weapons whenever possible to avoid attracting more zombies. As he spoke, a zombie approached them. Rick grabbed a stick and struck the zombie's head repeatedly until it was down. This marked Rick's initiation into the brutal new world. They then went to Rick's house. After calming down, Rick deduced that his wife and son were still alive when they left, as the drawers were emptied and even the photos on the walls were gone. Determined to find them, Rick vowed to do whatever it took. Morgan informed him that if his family was alive, they might be in Atlanta, where the military had supposedly set up a safe zone. Rick decided to head there immediately. Before leaving, Rick took Morgan and Dwayne to the police station, where they had a hot shower to express his gratitude. He also gave Morgan a sniper rifle for protection. Rick invited Morgan to join him in Atlanta, but Morgan couldn't leave his zombified wife behind. Reluctantly, Rick handed him a radio, suggesting they could stay in touch. With everything in place, Rick set off alone for Atlanta. On the way, Rick's car ran out of gas, but luck was on his side as he found a horse. The horse, wary of the stranger, was eventually soothed by Rick's promise of food, shelter, and the company of other horses in Atlanta. Man and horse sped towards the city, only to find it overrun with zombies. Zombies swarmed like tourists during a holiday, blocking Rick's path. In a panic, Rick was thrown off the horse, which quickly became zombie fodder.